Good morning, class. As I have said earlier, instead of you reporting the topic, I will instead be just reporting those topics that were missed because of the typhoon. So we haven't met for quite a while now. So I guess for us to move on, I will just be discussing the two topics or the topics that were missed during the typhoon and the recent cancellation of classes. So for chapter 6, we will be discussing communication model and directions. So the objectives of this chapter are: describe the application of the communication model in business setting, differentiate formal and informal communication, illustrate the different directions in communication. Business communication, as defined, is any action undertaken to promote an idea, product, service, or organization internally or externally with the objective of propagating the cause of the business by creating value or making a sale. A process of transmitting information and thoughts between various parts of an organization and people outside the organization. So, business communication is very much different from the communication that we use when we are in our homes, or the communication that we use together with our friends. It is very much different because, in a sense or in a way, it is very much formal compared to the ones that we use every day. Here we have different types of communication or different flow of communication or different parts before it reaches its destination. First, we have to create a stimulus or the reason why we need to communicate. That's stimulus. Of course, there's always a reason or yung dahilan kung bakit natin kailangan makipag-communicate. That's the stimulus. It has to be created first before we create the formal communication or the formal letter. It says here, step 1, the stimulus creates a need to communicate. So what is the reason for you to communicate? You got to have a reason. Step 2, after creating the stimulus or after knowing the reason why you need to communicate, you have to filter it, of course. Our knowledge, experience, and viewpoints act as a filter to help us interpret, decode the stimulus. And then comes the message. We formulate, we encode a verbal or non-verbal response to these stimuli. Or the medium, next after the message is the medium, select form of the message, and the destination to whom the intention was intended, or the letter was intended, or the communication was intended. That's the final destination. The message reaches its destination, and if successful, it's perceived accurately by the reader. So we have here an example. Dave Kaplan, a chemical engineer at Industrial Chemical Incorporation. Dave developed the ultralight, a flat electroluminescent sheet of material that serves as a light source. Dave could see the enormous business opportunity offered by a paper-thin light fixture such as ultralight, which was bendable and could be produced in a variety of shapes and sizes. The market for lighting is vast, and Dave, even though at the time of an engineer and not a businessman, felt the sting of inventing a device that had great potential but that belonged to somebody else, which is the Industrial Chemical Incorporation. He had proposed to the company about this light source as a business opportunity. He was disappointed in ICE's eventual decision not to manufacture and market this product. So let's see the flow of communication here. So first, Dave Kaplan here. Dave receives the memo from the head of R&D, or the research and development. Step 2, David interprets the memo to mean that IC has no interest in his invention. Okay, that's the interpretation That's the interpretation to David. As being said here, the IC chemical or the industrial chemical has no intention whatsoever to the proposal of David. And then step 3, David decides to relay this information to his brother. So he has a brother, Mark. Step 4, he telephones Mark. And then step 5, his brother receives the call. Continuation of the model. On the side of Mark, this is on the side of David. On the side of Mark, this is what happened. Mark receives a call from his brother, David. Okay? And then step 2, Mark had filtered Dave's message because he knew his brother was a scientist and not a businessman. Step 3, David knew that his brother was not interested. He had changed his message accordingly. Step 4, David continues to use the phone to talk to Mark. And step 5, Mark had stayed on the phone to listen to David. So the feedback is, Mark listens and gives Dave his reaction. Okay? Here in the second part, the feedback was, Mark was challenged by David's remarks and listened to his brother's proposal. So this is a rather informal communication between David and Mark. Mark as the brother of David, and David telling his situation on industrial chemical, that his proposal was rejected. So David called his brother to tell his story regarding the situation between him and the chemical incorporation, or the IC, industrial chemical. And Mark as his brother advises David that David, or his brother, was a scientist and not a businessman. So that was the reaction that was given to David from his brother. In this way, the flow of communication is complete. From stimulus, from David's side, going to its destination, the intention of David was to tell his brother regarding his experience. Here, from the stimulus going to his brother, the destination is Mark, his brother. And here, the destination is Mark going to David. So it's a back-to-back flow of communication. It's a two-way form of communication, but still, both parties are being reached with the intention of the other. Okay, here, the intention of David was to tell his brother, and here, the intention of Mark is to advise David on his plans and proposals. So it's a complete path. It's a complete flow of communication between David and Mark. Here we have the organizational chart when it comes to communication. As I have said earlier, we have two types. We have formal and informal. Okay, formal communication network is a transmission of information through official channels within the organization. So, of course, in every organization, there's a flow chart or set of bodies or different types of components that forms the organization, from the most up, or from the upper part. Okay, this is the hierarchy. The upper part of the organization is, of course, the president, David, going to the vice president and down to his subordinates. Okay, so on the other side, the informal communication is also known as a grapevine. It transmits information through non-official channels within the organization. So on the following slide, we will see what is the meaning of grapevine. Okay, let's see. Here we have another flow of communication from David. Okay, say David releases a memo down to his subordinates. That's a downward form of communication from David, the president of the organization, down to his lower subordinates. And again, from his lower subordinates up to David being the president is the upward communication. Here we have the cross channel between the lower subordinates. So let's see what is grapevine. Directions of communication in formal communication networks. So as I have said earlier, we have two types. We have formal and informal. Grapevine communication is included in the informal communication. So what is grapevine communication? The grapevine is pervasive. It exists at all levels in the organization. The grapevine is most active when change is taking place. And how can an organization stop this type of communication network? I guess it's very hard to stop the grapevine. Grapevine class is sa Tagalog, ito yung chismis na sinasabi, okay? In every organization, there's always the rumor or there's always the hearsay regarding what is happening around the organization, okay? Ito yung chismis na nangyayari, especially when there's a change that's going to take place within the organization. Okay, ito yung hindi siya included, hindi siya formally included dun sa memo or dun sa letter. Na most of the time, it changes from one person to another. Nadadagdagan, nababawasan. That's the problem with grapevine communication. Since it is not formal, okay, anybody can add up to the story or anybody can deduct from the story until the information that you are getting is no longer accurate. Unlike in the formal organization, what is being written or what is being said in black and white in the letter, that's all you can rely. Here in the grapevine communication, the story changes from one person to another, so it is no longer reliable on the part of the receiver. Now the question is, how can an organization stop this type of communication network? I guess it would be very difficult for an organization to stop this type of communication, since since the body of organization or the one who composes the organization are different persons having different insights and thoughts. I guess it would be very difficult for an organization to stop this kind of stigmata, rather, okay? So we have here an activity which is not applicable for an online class. We have here report assignment. I guess I will not be assigning this to you, but later, I guess on the following days, I will be posting your final activity on our classwork or in our classroom, so that you will have more time to prepare that. Just watch for that, okay? I will be posting your final activity later, maybe next week or until Saturday, and you can work on that as early as possible, okay? So that's it. That's the conclusion of chapter 6. Chapter 6 is all about, okay, for those who are assigned, okay, class, for those who are assigned in this chapter, okay, instead, since I had already discussed it, so you have no more report to do. So instead of reporting, I guess just answer these questions. These are just for those reporters who are assigned on this module, okay? Since na-report ko na nga siya, so all you have to do is answer these two questions and then pass it to me kahit sa messenger ko na lang. This is just intentionally for those two reporters who were assigned on this part, okay? So answer these two and then pass it to me or forward it to me on my messenger account. Okay? So that's it. Thank you, class, and have a great day and stay safe. Thank you.